This is episode 1 of Sports Amigos. So what the idea is, I'm reconnecting and connecting with people that I've met throughout my sportscasting career. And tonight, the first episode begins with my co-host, someone who I consider a brother, born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, graduated from the U of A, hashtag bear down, in 2007. Broadcasting career started in 2008 at KTXS in Abilene, Texas, which is where we met. He went on to Eugene, Oregon in 2014. KEZI, the ABC affiliate. The son of Doug and Catherine. He's a husband, father of 2 beautiful girls, Peyton and Kylie. I'd like to welcome my co-host, my buddy, a dude I owe a lot to where I am right now, honestly. He's a certified sports amigo. This is our show. Mike Skow, welcome to your show, to our show. Thank you for doing this with me. I'm so excited right now.
Oh my gosh, it is so good to be back on some form of broadcast with you, my brother. And if it were possible, I feel like there should be thunderous applause for that introduction, because nobody has ever introduced me in such a grand and loving fashion like that. So my brother, thank you.
The first rough draft I had was about 5 times longer. I had to cut the fat. There was a lot of other stuff I wanted to add, but we can get through that in the episode. Okay, so you and I last worked together in 2014. We have seen each other twice, right? Since then, both in Las Vegas working. Is that right?
Yeah. I'm racking my brain just in case there's a time in there that we missed, but that sounds about right. The last 2 times we met were 2016, 2017 in Las Vegas, covering our respective conference men's basketball tournaments.
You were still working in Eugene, covering the Pac-12 tournament. I was covering UTRGV in the WAC tournament. And yeah, it's so cool that we even got to do that, because chances were we were never going to see each other until, we went really out of our way. So it was awesome to mix sports and fun, because that's all we did the whole time. Once work was over, we were in Vegas. Let's go walk around. Let's go catch up. And now we have this platform, whatever we want to call it, our own little show. Sports Amigos is what we're going with so far. It's a working title. It could change. Who knows? But now we get to catch up anytime we want doing this, and we can bring on our friends in the process.
That's what I'm really looking forward to about this, is a chance to catch up with my buddy, catch up with one of my dearest friends. We go back, gosh, I can't believe has it been a solid 10 years that we've known each other now? I feel like it has.
I always round up now when people ask me how long I've been in sportscasting, because it's since 2011. I count when I moved to West Texas. And yeah, 9 years solid, going on the 10th year. Like July of 2021 will be the official 10-year mark. But I'm still rounding it up already.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's been, going on. It's been 9 years for you. And I was in the biz for, like, all things considered, my experience in the biz was a couple months shy of 15 years. But isn't it crazy when you stop and step back for a second and say, holy cow, look what I've done, look what I've seen, look what I've covered in this industry.
Right. And that's what we're going to get to in the first episode and for anyone that watches this and doesn't know, Mike is not in the business anymore. You retired, essentially, a couple of years ago, 2018, right?
Yeah, it's been.
You retired. You got out of the business. You're doing something else now. You're not even in sports anymore.
No, it's been 2.5 years since over 2.5 years now. Gosh, over 2.5 years since I took out the IFB for the last time. But that was, gosh, it feels like that was not quite that long ago. But I mean, everybody has their reasons for getting out. Mine was, we have a kid coming and I want to be able to be dad. I want to be home. And it's been amazing. I'm glad that I still have friends in the business and we still know people in the business, because we still chat with them from time to time. And like this, you and I get to chat. It's an absolute blast, and it's fun sharing those stories of chaos and hell unfolding before us, and getting to laugh about it afterwards.
So the plan for the show is we've come up with a list, a tentative list of people that we've known, since we started working in this business. You since 2008, me since 2011, and it ranges from people that are in TV, radio, newspaper. But in the first episode, we both agreed that it was appropriate for us to just catch up together and share some of our experiences first, just to get it out of the way. And then the plan is, after this, each episode, we're going to bring someone in and focus on their story and how our paths crossed.
Right. And this whole idea is supposed to be a platform for us to come together, talk with people we know, hear their stories, hear their experiences. We both know incredible people in this industry or who have left the industry that have incredible passion for certain things. And it can range from wanting to tell small town stories to wanting to amplify and create a better platform for certain people to work within the industry. But we want this to be a gathering place where we can all hang out, tell those stories, ask their perspectives, get their thoughts, and catch up, hang out, joke around, and shoot the stuff with each other.
Right. And so I think we should now shift into how we met, where we were working, and where we went from there. So first off, KTXS. I mean, that's where you started. Let's get some shout outs. Let's get some shout outs out of the way. I wrote some down. Brian Keating, who was a sports director when we both started there. Love that dude. Hopefully he comes on at some point.
I would love to get him on. That would be so much fun.
George Levesque hired us both, right? He hired you as well? He hired me. Yeah, was the news director. Scott Martin, the chief photographer. Jesse Smith, Mark Solis, Roger Ingram, Casey Kiernan, Corey, Nikki, Josh. There's so many people that honestly, only was with them for a couple of years. But because of the amount of time I spent with them, when I met them, Abilene and the people we worked with there, we're going to have a huge place in my heart. We're planning on going back next year to Abilene for a wedding. So hopefully we can see all of them. Brandon McAuliffe, who's getting married next year with our dear friend Whitney. Met them both in Abilene as well. You met them both in Abilene too, right? It wasn't like you met them outside. It was everyone was in Abilene.
Here is one of the craziest stories about those two people. So to fill you in, Brandon is he's a writer for the newspaper scene, and he works with Dave Campbell's Texas High School Football, which is a huge publication out there. But his fiance Whitney, and you want to talk about the smallest of instances and so on. Whitney was the first person to ever sell me makeup for my on-air role in Texas. I had been there for probably a week, if that. And it's one of those things. If you're on air in the television industry, yes, you use makeup. It's for guys, it's usually like a powder or something, or I
have makeup on right now, unfortunately, because
exactly.
I'm at work. I'm finishing up work today.
Exactly. But you need it because with all the lights and everything, you want to get rid of that shine, that reflection. So I knew, okay, yep. Yeah. But I knew, okay, I got to suck it up and do this. And I went to the mall across the street from my apartment, and I walk up to the counter, and Whitney is the person behind the counter, and I say, look, here's my situation. I work at this TV station. I'm going to be on air, and I need like a powder to take the shine off my face. And it turns out that Whitney not only sold me that makeup, but she still is best friends with my wife. And you want to talk about 2 degrees of separation. My wife's best friend sold me makeup. my wife's college roommate was dating a photographer we worked with at the time, and it all came together. It
Yeah.
all just worked so perfectly that we're together now.
And we'll get to that top three most romantic stories of all time when it comes to you and Carrie meeting. We'll get to that
Yep. Yep.
eventually. But yeah, Mike met his wife and married his wife in Abilene. So that's special. I got to be there. That was pretty sweet. So let's talk KTXS. Your career starts in Abilene in 2008, and you make the switch from news to sports, which was the right move because sports is better.
Yep.
No,
Amen.
but that's what you were meant to do. You're a sports guy. You were a sports guy trapped in a news guy's life, and you got the opportunity to move over. So what do you remember about first covering high school football there? Because high school sports in Abilene are king. Football is the king of the kings, but covering high school sports is very unique in that part of Texas and really of that part of the country, along with college football and everything else that comes with working at a sports station.
So I think you need to back up a little bit to when I was first living in Tucson, because I was I got an internship that turned into a job at the assignment desk at the ABC affiliate here in Tucson, Arizona, where I live now, where I'm from, born and raised. And I was given a chance to do a little bit of photography work and shoot basically like clouds, a couple scenes here and there. And then it was really when I got an internship at the CBS station in college that turned into a part-time job as at the assignment desk, and then basically shooting high school football. And I grew up. I'm an Arizona Wildcat through and through, and I love sports. That's really what drove. That's the fire that really kindled my move from news to sports. But I had a chance to cover high school football here in Arizona, and I remember when it was during the process when I was hired here in Abilene, or it was right after I got there, that George Levesque, the news director, said, hey, we want you to be able to shoot high school football too. We know your background. It's huge out here. And I thought, this is awesome. And
So you were cool just with shooting stuff once in a while when you first were the news guy.
Exactly. I was really passionate about the chance to do that, because I remember leading up to it, I'm like, I'm really looking forward to high school football. I had no idea what to expect. I had no idea how big high school football was in Texas at the time, and the types of people, the athletes that came out of Texas. I did not know when I first moved out to Texas, but you learn very, very quickly the names and the Hall of Famers, the legacies that come out of Texas high school football. But I still remember the first game that I shot, Abilene Wiley High School. I don't remember who they were playing, but I remember that I just went out there and prayed basically that my stuff wasn't too shaky. It worked. And we call them shot sheets, like the scripts that we use. It was so jumbled, I was getting all caught up over myself and trying to read off the jersey numbers as well as the names. I remember that. And then I want to say it was my second year, because I was in news at the time. So
Right.
I would put on my news hat for 6 days out of the week. And then Friday nights come along, I put on my news hat at first, do my thing, take the news hat off, and go shoot a high school football game. And I still remember in this second year of doing it, Skow High School, which has an incredible tradition of high school football, playing one of their regional rivals in Clyde High School. And Skow did not have the greatest night. They got the win. They didn't have a good night. The rivalry game was coming up, I think, the week after. And our sports director, Brian Keating, and one of the other guys who worked in sports, Brian Holland, and another dude who we're buds with that we want to get on the podcast. He, like, they heard the way that I described what was going on, because they said, all right, what do you think about next week? What do you think about when these two teams get together? And it I went back and listened, and I do agree with him to an extent that, yeah, I was dogging Cisco, which was like a top 10 program that season. Like I came off like I was just
The
dumping
huevos on you,
manure.
my sports amigo.
I know. I was dumping manure all over them.
Oh my gosh.
And
And we ended up seeing them win a state title before we stopped working at KTXS. We got to see
which
that. Yeah, which we'll talk about too.
and that was so cool to be able to see. But I remember I was assigned to that game, obviously, the week after, and I got what I needed to. I was headed back to the car to drive back to the station, and some dude in the stands, "Hey, Mike, we can't beat Cisco," or whatever they said. They heard it, and they were giving me flack about it.
Nice.
Like, I still think about that stuff. It was so much fun, as contentious, as heated as it got. Everybody loves it out
So
there.
that was your first live shot
That was,
for sports.
yeah, for sports, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's fast forward a bit. We started working together 2011, and man, you showed me the ropes. I mean, you showed me how to do so many things, basically everything. And we had a chance to work together on Sports Sunday, which is still going at KTXS, a half-hour sports program in a little town. At the time, I didn't really think about like, oh, this is a big deal, or this is like I didn't really like understand the gravity of it. But looking back now, like that was a really big honor to be like a co-host with you. And then eventually when you moved up to sports director, I was the host. And I mean, that was a huge honor. And I remember us collaborating super quickly, figuring out things that we weren't doing and trying to think of new things to do. And that was like, yeah, the early memories I can remember, I can look back on, really like just like how much we clicked as coworkers, you know?
What were your first memories of the two of us working together?
Well, I mean, I can remember the first day. I don't know if you can remember your first day, but that was when the Rangers fan fell off the bleachers. That was my first day in 2011. I think it was a home run, and a Rangers fan fell off. It was a huge story because that person was from Brownwood, who was from that area, and became a huge like news story, let alone sports story.
Yeah.
So the newsroom was chaotic my first day, and I already had a game plan for the icebreaker for us because I knew you were from Tucson and you went to U of A, and I grew up with Derek Williams. So I was like, okay, I got to like breathe a couple of minutes, and then I got to tell him about Derek Williams. And yeah, I eventually brought that up, and your eyes got like, what? You know Derek? And then we had a beer that night after my first night.
To be clear, one of your Christmas presents to me, it was like a couple years later, was a signed Derek Williams basketball. And we're talking about the Derek Williams that went to the University of Arizona, played basketball there. He was on the Elite Eight team that straight up curb stomped Duke. And Duke, Duke had just come off the national title, and Derek Williams almost single-handedly dropped Duke out of the tournament in 2011.
A Wildcat legend for you, and for me, it was someone that I had known since he was 8 years old. He went to school with my brother from the time they were in kindergarten all throughout high school. They were real close in high school. I was the PA announcer for his last 2 or 3 years at his high school. Got to see him play a ton. So yeah, I was like really excited about that connection, and yeah, we bonded quickly over a lot of things. But Derek Williams was definitely my first like, hey man, you might like me because I like U of A too, you know. And Derek, like, I got some Derek stories. Let's talk some Derek stuff. And I remember.
Even though, let's be honest, that you tried and true are a UCLA fan.
Oh God, yeah, diehard UCLA fan. But while Derek was there, I didn't root for UCLA. I only rooted for Derek.
I have a hard time believing that.
Even when they played UCLA, I was, oh gosh, yeah. I mean, because he was like family, you know, growing up. He was the pride of La Mirada. La Mirada, California is where I'm born and raised, in Norwalk. But La Mirada is where, yeah, I knew Derek and went to high school and took huge pride in that. But then as soon as he graduated, I was like, okay, I'm back to UCLA because Derek's gone. I don't know anyone at U of A anymore. Like he was it.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so let's fast forward a little bit more. Some favorite memories at Texas. We covered our first Monday Night Football game together. That was really cool. Cowboys Redskins. Oh man, and I just oh man, I messed up. I had it right here in the corner behind my computer. I have a few programs that I had saved. I still have the program. It's just not in here. I took it back home. But Des Bryant on the cover. Yeah, Cowboys Redskins. We got to do our first pro football game together, and we were pretty like we were pretty shell shocked. We were like, man, this is cool. We were in the press box, like rubbing elbows with Rick Riley. Saw Stuart Scott do a highlight read on the field when you were shooting a stand up. That was we were pretty jaw dropping pretty much all night.
Yeah. I mean, we were young bucks. We were doing our thing.
I was all of 24, 25. Yeah.
I know. And I think I was like a year or two older than you, a couple years older or whatever. But I remember just watching that, like looking at the guys on the field during pregame, because if you are not part of NFL Network, ESPN, or if you're not one of the pre-approved like local guys in that market who are allowed to shoot the game, you're there. You can be on the field at pregame, halftime, postgame, and then you're up in the press box. And I still remember it was just the linemen warming up, and we
snuck a walk on during the game. Do you remember that? We kind of like we're like, oh man, we don't know how to get over there. Let's just go through the field because we know how to get through the field. We kind of like we went down the sideline once.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
Like the game had just started, I think. So it was like it wasn't frowned upon too much. But yeah, like we were on the field during the game and we were like, dude, this is so cool. Like we couldn't even work. We were just like, it was too much.
That was the Tony Romo game, like a week or so after he had busted up his ribs. And I want to say that was.
Yeah, they didn't have Tony Romo. Oh man, Kai Forbath. I think he had 5 field goals. Who was the kicker? No, not Kai Forbath. No, he's too recent.
Was it Dan Bailey?
Dan Bailey. Good call. It was Dan Bailey. That was early Dan Bailey era for the Cowboys.
That was one. I still remember the stand-up that I used in my reel to get my next job was me talking about not a single touchdown in this game. And when I look back,
we took our sweet time doing that stand-up because the game was way over. It was already really late. It was almost like midnight. We knew we had a 3-hour drive to get home. We were like, dude, let's just like soak it in. There was almost no one on the field, after like the stadium had been completely filled up. It was really cool for us just to be like one of the few people in the stadium shooting your stand-up, just like we were at Abilene High or Wiley or Cooper. I think by that moment, we were finally like, okay, you know what? We're working. It was just a game, and let's get you a good stand-up right here, right now.
It took a little while.
That's what I remember.
Yeah, it took a little while. I remember I was paranoid in post-game because you were running the camera, and I'm like, are we recording? Are we ready? Are we?
Couldn't even like relax. But you sat pretty far up. Yeah. In the seats. Yeah. And you got it. You got in a question with Romo.
I remember that. And he answered the question, and I felt like $1 million after that, because that was the first like press conference style question I ever asked at a professional level, and for whatever reason, it just sort of stuck with me. But it was, I mean, we were so young. We didn't know what the heck we were doing.
Well, like young and inexperienced is the key thing too. It was our first Monday Night Football game in AT&T Stadium. I'd only been there one other time for an ACU game, but that's nothing compared to hundreds and hundreds of media, a filled, packed house, and the Cowboys. Let's face it, it's the Cowboys. I mean, it's a team we grew up watching from afar. I wasn't necessarily a fan of the Cowboys growing up, but it was still really cool. So yeah, that was a great memory. Okay, so we gotta chug it along now. I want to go back to personal stuff. You met Carrie, your wife, in Abilene, and you guys got married there. She grew up in Breckenridge. Her dad still lives in Breckenridge, right?
He actually retired last year. He hit that big 7-0, retired. and now he's actually living in Abilene.
Oh,
So
great. Oh, cool.
yeah, yeah,
Okay, cool.
they're in Abilene. They're actually not too far from oh gosh, the pre-Monday Fun Day, the bar that we would go to on
But that one,
Sunday
that was the first.
nights.
Okay, that was the first one we went to, and I can't remember it either. I think I need to look it up.
The tavern, the tavern.
Is it the tavern?
It was the tavern.
Okay.
It's not there anymore. The
Oh,
tavern is,
what?
I know, the tavern is a distant memory now.
That's a bummer.
I
Wow.
know. Because
It's because
that's,
we left.
I
They
know.
lost a lot of business.
I know.
We would go
All of
there.
us.
Yeah, we would go there after every sports Sunday. Every single sports Sunday. Once it was over, boom, we went there with. Oh, come on. I feel bad for not shouting these two out during the initial shout out, but major, major, major shout out. Brandon Guidry, Robert Cardenas, who are both still in the business in Houston, in different parts of Houston.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes stuff. Great guys. Brothers for life. So many beverages consumed at the tavern with those two in particular on
Yep.
Sunday, specifically on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, come on. The personal connection you will always have to Abilene is huge, not just because you work there, but you met the love of your life. You married her there. I mean, that's just cool. It doesn't get any cooler, man. That your first market is where you met her. That's pretty dang neat.
Abilene is truly, and it truly is like a second home, not just because it's family. That's where we cut our chops. That's where we were poor and working paycheck to paycheck, just trying to find a way to, how can I pay for groceries, bills, and afford a beer on Sunday night?
I was on food stamps for like 5 months. That's how I was able to afford it. Yeah, I mean, you had to do it. You had to do what you had to do. Yeah. It was a struggle.
You do, but you do exactly what you have to do. I mean, weren't you filling teaching or something while you were there too?
No, that was probably Brian. I remember when Brian Holland would come back, he would always ask me like, "So what's your side job, man?" I'm like, "Nah, just got food stamps." And that was like $200 a month.
I know.
And like, dude, when you like think like you're a young 24, 25-year-old single guy crunching a like $30-$40 budget a month for food, you're talking like that's all your food money.
Yep.
You go from that to $200. I felt rich. So anyway, yeah, that's how I squeezed by. But then I think 8 months later ish, Brian Keating moved on to Oklahoma City. You got the opportunity to move up to the big sports director job, and then I got the opportunity to be the weekend sports person. So I was full time, making a livable wage by that time. So that was nice.
So I want to know. I vaguely remember the discussion I had. Not so much the discussion with Brian when he got the job in Oklahoma City, because I remember he told me, but then I remember having the discussion with George, and I think it was Bud Brown, rest in peace, who was the GM at the station at the time, bringing me in and talking to me about, oh, do you want the sports director job? Yes, I would love it. That'd be great. And then basically it was just, okay, starting tomorrow, you're sports director. And then what do you remember about when we sort of shifted positions?
Oh God, I mean, I only remember, it was very fast. They moved you up, and as soon as they moved you up, I went right to George's office, our boss, and was like, "Hey, here's my stuff for the weekend position." And he's like, "Okay, cool." Like we didn't really talk about it. I was like, "Here's my application. Got to get back to work." I think only a week went by, maybe. It wasn't that long, maybe a week or two tops. And he brings me in, summons me in. And he's like, "Hey, I'd like to offer you the weekend sports job." Like it was like no like foreplay. It was just like boom, right into it. And I was like, "Thank you. Let's go." Like I'm ready to rock. Like I know what to do. Mike showed me what to do, I was only there for 7 or 8 months leading up to that, but I was so ready because of working with you for that time. It was like crash course after crash course. And yeah, man, it was just like, it was like seamless. You going into director and me going into the weekend. It really wasn't that big a deal as far as like, what is our job now? Because we already knew what to do. I think the only thing that was an adjustment, like, oh, who's the third person going to be? And Casey Kiernan was a blast to work with, who I hope to get on this Sports Amigos podcast at some point. Yeah, that was a blast. Like just both of us moving up together,
But
taking the next
hold
step
on,
together.
hold on, back it up for a sec. How thrilled were you when you were offered your first full-time job in sports?
Well, like honestly, dude, like even though I was only part-time when I started at KTXS, I felt full-time because I was there way more than the hours I was getting paid. Straight up. I was there full-time hours. I already felt full-time. It was nice financially, for sure, to like be able to afford rent without crunching hard, get off food stamps. I was already honored to be part-time. Like that was already a huge deal to me. The bump up was very, very cool, but it wasn't as significant as just getting there in the first place.
But
You know what I mean?
for a fact, you were sitting there like internally, you were basically streaking down the street to the quad naked. You were so excited in your mind.
I was doing that pretty often anyway. So
Yes.
that was pretty standard anyway. No, but of course I was excited. I was just relieved, I guess, that it didn't seem like he considered that many people. And I'd love to ask him that question straight up when we get George on this. Hey man, come on. How many people did you consider moving up? Mike, how many people, when you moved me up? I'd like to see what his answer is, because it was easy. It was easy to move you up. You were a shoo-in, and I was busting my butt, and I think he was just like, man, this guy's working too hard. Got to move him up. Him and Mike got a thing going. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, that was so much fun. Those few years, like 2.5 years basically, that we had the chance to work together were so much fun. We have many memories.
Built the foundation of what I still do today. I've been very lucky. I'm 3 for 3. Every place I've gone to, get along really, really, really well with who I work with. And that's not always the case. We have plenty of friends in the business that have nightmare stories, do not have pleasant experiences everywhere they go. So yeah, I'm 3 for 3 right now, man. You in Abilene, because we work together so intimately, way more than I did with Brian or anyone else at KTXS. Like we were like inseparable. We were always working together on some story or some sports Sunday idea or something outside the box. That was something I enjoyed about us. We were trying to like think. I don't know if I want to use the word bigger, but we were trying to make things our own.
I think that's the best way to put it. We wanted to make it our own. We wanted it to be ours. We wanted it to be our thing. And I feel like we were able to do that. And it did not hurt that we hung out with people that we worked with.
Yeah.
And we really developed a really tight,
right.
A tight friendship, not just with us, but with the people who worked behind the scenes, with the producers that we worked with. We developed like our own little family of sorts, and that made a big difference for what we were trying to do.
For sure. Okay, let's move on to what your next job was. So maybe 6 months after I left, probably less, after I moved on to KRGV in Weslaco, Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, you got an opportunity to go to Eugene, Oregon. I remember the phone call. You called me, and I think you had gotten the first phone interview with Eugene. Yeah. Like the first, like, okay, they like me and they want to like just talk to me for a little bit. And I remember you telling me that, and I said, well, you're getting that job. You're getting that one. Like,
I was so nervous. I was so worried because to put it into perspective, like you left in, I want to say
February, March, something like that. Because state basketball's coming. I remember that. We were right in the heart of high school sports.
Yeah. So that was February, March of 2014. And it was it was like mid to late April when I got the call from KZI. And I remember they wanted to talk to me first. And I thought, because the big thing for me was I wanted to go to a market that was Power 5 athletics. I wanted to go to an ACC, a Big 12, SEC, or Pac-12, Big
Right.
10, like those. I wanted to go to a market that covered those kind of teams
Mm-hmm.
because
Which
I
which
wanted,
which which for all intents and purposes, that's the next level from where we
yeah,
were. Yeah,
yeah.
we were in a mid-major market. Abilene Christian is now found success in basketball in the NCAA tournament, and they weren't even D1 when we were
Nope.
there. They were moving to D1. So you
They
went
had
from
just, yeah,
covering
they had just announced their transition
right.
from
They were
D2 to D1.
barely starting it. Yeah, it's a long time ago. So you went from covering Division 2, Division 3 college to Pac-12, like big time college football, and just so happened to be a place where you got to cover a national championship game, a Heisman Trophy winner, and yeah, just big time stuff right out of the gate. Final Four in
Dude,
Eugene happened when you were there. Like that's crazy.
to put it into perspective, my first week on the job, I started on a Monday, and that Wednesday, I was already I was covering NCAA track and field athletics, and that was the first week of the job. And if that's any kind of precursor to what was going on, like that first year I was there was absolutely monumental because I start off by covering NCAA track and field outdoor championships, which, to give you an idea, Eugene, Oregon's nickname is Tracktown USA. They hold the Olympic track and field trials there almost every year. NCAA championships are there almost every year. It's it is a hotbed. They're getting ready to host the outdoor world championships for the first time in America there in Eugene. But that's the first week I was there. And then I did not know exactly what I was going to be covering during the interviews. It really was not until about the time that I started that I learned I was going to be the Oregon Duck beat reporter for football season, because in Eugene, the market is Oregon and Oregon State. So it's not just one, it's two. And we had two beat reporters. We had somebody covering Oregon, which turned out to be me. I replaced the guy who left and moved to Columbus. And then Oregon State, who Steven Nelson, which, to give you an idea of the people that come out of Eugene, like he's now a host on MLB and NHL Network, and the dude is absolutely slaying it over there. But my first football season is covering Oregon football's national championship appearance in the first college football playoff and Marcus Mariota's Heisman campaign. And I was fortunate enough that they sent me everywhere. The only trip I did not go on was because of a buddy's wedding, and they were playing Colorado, which was, living in the basement of the Pac-12 for however many years up to that point. So that was the only Oregon event for football that I did not cover, but they sent me everywhere. And I checked off 1, 2, 3, 4, like five or six different sports bucket list items because of, for the most part, that one season, the extra one or two being the Olympic trials and the Final Four. It was mind blowing what I've been able to do. And you sort of see up around me here, like the credentials from my career in Oregon and Texas just sort of posted on the wall. Is like, there are so many memories in that.
Yeah, you hit the jackpot. getting the duck beat, being the Oregon reporter, man, in just 1 year. And then and everything that you did the whole time you were there, you covered some great stuff. Yeah, Eugene, I was pretty jealous. I'm not gonna lie. Like, this guy's at the national champion. This guy's at the Final Four. That is so cool, man. I was so happy for you. So proud of you. And you obviously you were killing it everywhere you went with all the reports you did. You know what? We gotta fast forward a bit through Eugene, because then a huge moment in your life happens. You're doing great. You're covering all these great things. You have enough experience in your belt by the time 2018 comes around where you could be applying for some good, big jobs, get an agent, probably move up in your career, and you guys get pregnant. you get a baby coming, and you did something so brave, so admirable, that not a lot of people do in this business. And you basically sacrificed a lot of things you had worked up to that point to start a family and to just dedicate your life, at least the time you weren't able, because you were on the road a lot, the time you were missing with your wife, you decided, I'm going to make up for all that time I lost with her on the road in Eugene. And it's all about you and baby Peyton. Take me back to like when that thought process was really starting to get serious in your head. Okay, whoa, I'm about to be a dad. Do I even want to do this job where I'm working at the night? I mean, people don't understand, like, we work in the nights so much for this line of work, and it weighs on you in your personal life when you're in a relationship and when you have a family. Yeah, take me through that thought process. Like, okay, whoa, maybe I shouldn't do this anymore, and my priorities are changing.
To give you an idea, I think you need to have a little context as to the situation, the phase of life. And when we found out that we were pregnant with our first kid, which we, when we got married, we knew we want to get to a point where we want to have kids. We want this to be a family. We want to grow our family.
You knew you were making babies. That's what you're trying to say.
Exactly. Yeah, we knew we were making babies, baby. Um, I was in my contract year. I was in the last year of my contract, and I had gotten to the point where I'm like, maybe one more move, because I like covering major FBS athletics takes a lot of time. It takes time, it takes effort. If you want to do it right, if you want to tell the stories right, you need to put a lot of heart and soul into it. And I have a lot of admiration for the men and women who work in not just sports, but in news, who have their families, who have their kids, and stay in the industry. I admire them a lot because it takes so much. Really, for so many reasons, also because the schedule is so crazy. And I knew that when we started having kids, I wanted to be present, and present means that you're also there in the evenings when it's time to do dinner as a family and when it's time to put kids down for the night. And our schedule is nutso at different times of the year, because you're starting the day at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you're not done until 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. So I knew I wanted to be able to take care of my family. And when we found out we were going to have Peyton, it was just sort of that, okay, this is it. It's
You
time
just
to.
knew then, right? Like, as soon as you found out she was pregnant, like, you had a gut feeling pretty much.
It took a couple months for it to really set in and to really become obvious. But I knew, like, okay, you've thought about this for a while. You've thought about being a dad and thought about, what are your priorities going to be. It was probably, we found out in June of 2017, and it was probably September, late September, when I'm like, it was because football season, you're putting in 50, 60, in some cases 70 hours a week. And I knew at that point, all right, it's time to figure out what are your priorities, and family was my priority. So
Did
that's when I
Carrie did
said,
Carrie try to convince you to stay in sports?
no. She was really supportive, and she said, what do you want to do? I will, we will work together to make this happen, regardless of what you want to do. And I made the decision independent from her. I said, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do for us. And I'm perfectly happy with it. And, there are certain things that I do miss. Being able to cover the actual game day is fun. Um, but like, that's what I really miss the most. But being able to be a dad to my two girls is so much more fulfilling than going and covering sports sometimes.
Yeah, man, I couldn't agree. I don't even know how to put even better words into that statement you just made, because I'll like the first time I changed my kid's diaper in the hospital, wiped his dirty butt. I thought that butt wiping was more meaningful than anything I've ever done. You know what I mean? Like taking
There,
care of a human
yes,
being, right? Giving them a bath, keeping them clean, feeding them, tending to their every need. It is just so much bigger than everything else.
I still remember the first time that I got to hold Peyton. There's a picture. I don't know who took the picture, but it's me holding her, just me looking down at her. She was tiny. She was less than 6 pounds when she was born. But there's so much emotion when, when your kid is born. Like you're almost speechless. And I mean, at that point, you're holding them in your arms for the first time and you're like, this is absolutely worth it. Everything that I'm doing, these decisions that I've made, what I'm doing for my family, this is absolutely worth it. Regardless of the poopy diapers, you know, when they poop and it sprays across the room, it doesn't matter. It's worth it.
For sure. For sure. So life after sports, it's now been 2 years. And you mentioned some things that you miss. Is there any part of you that ever feels like you could get back into that line of work at all? Or is this show just going to fulfill it?
I can see it happening. I mean, that is for sure. I can see it happening.
There's a lot of sports in Tucson.
Oh, there totally is. It won't be in the same capacity as what I was doing, even just reporting on games. But I still keep in touch with some of the people I used to work with here in Tucson. I worked at two of the three um, affiliates here in town, so I still know people. And should the option ever come up that I can go and shoot highlights on a Friday night or something for them, just to get them highlights and sort of feel back in that world, heck yeah, I would love the opportunity to do that. But my priority first and foremost is to my family, and doing something else like that. Like I would love to support a team like that again. I would love to go back and work with some of the people, and as much as the door is revolving in broadcast, you still call back to some of these stations you worked at, and there are still certain people there. And there are still, like, one of my mentors who was a producer at the ABC station here in Tucson when I worked there. She's now the news director, and I still talk to her every once in a while. And so I could still see offering my time up to her if she needed an extra body to go shoot sports or something. But I mean, I do see it as a possibility, but I'm definitely happy being a dad.
Yeah, the bug is still there. It's never going
Oh
to go
heck
away
yeah.
because of how long you did it, how much you loved it. And to kind of close things out, now this new chapter of yours is you went from Eugene to back home to Tucson, Arizona, got a job. It all kind of worked out in that sense. Things kind of lined up the right way. And you got to go back home like with family, with your mom and dad around, with your buddies that are still around living there. Yeah, what has that been like the last 2 years? Just to be living, a completely different life, but at least at home, as a dad with a growing family.
So I will say this. The whole COVID quarantine thing has been different because our youngest was born on March 2nd. So that was a Monday. And my last day at the office was that Friday beforehand. And I mean, we knew COVID was a thing at that point. We didn't know what it was going to be. And we had to stay in the hospital a couple days just to make sure, because she came early. We had to stay in the hospital a little bit to make sure that everything was okay. We come home on a Wednesday, and a week later everything's shut down. And it was like, oh, okay, I have to hunker down and just live within these walls with a newborn, a toddler, and my wife for however many months.
Totally outnumbered.
And I live in a sea of estrogen. We have two dogs. One is a German Shepherd Husky mix. She's a girl. And we have my black lab. He's a dude. That's the only other testosterone in the house.
Well,
But
at least you got him.
I know, right?
Better than
And
none. You gotta
Exactly.
have some bro time.
Exactly. And so I've been working full time from home, which you can kind of see behind me that this is sort of my setup. But I've been working full time from home, and my parents help out and watch the kids usually about a day a week or every other week, and they absolutely love it. My sister will say, "Hey, I'm going to steal Peyton away for the morning so we can go get coffee and just drive around town or something." Like, I mean, it's been amazing that they've been around family. Like, it it really does go a long way to say that yes, I have family here who can help out, family to be around, family for our kids to grow up with. Because now, whenever I tell Peyton, "Hey, grandma and grandpa are coming up," she gets super excited. She loves it, and she loves seeing her family. She loves seeing her friends, and it's nice to be able to do that and have that for her. So, to your question, being around family and having our kids grow up around them and making other friends around here has been awesome. Because even when we're, separated apart, um, like we are right now, it's still awesome to know that we have family. Because yes, we are separate, we are doing our part, we're being socially distant and doing that whole thing. It's still nice to be able to have family that can come and see the kids and visit and that. And I'm curious what it's been like for you during all of this too. You have a little one of your own who's it's crazy for little kids. I'm sure it's been crazy for him too.
I think the biggest thing that's helped us is that his daycare never closed.
Ha!
So he's been able to still get contact and socialize with his little buddies at school. And we have a handful of pretty close friends out here that we feel comfortable to go see them every once in a while, to have them over for dinner once in a while. That goes a long way for us. Just having, a couple of people that you got to be careful. You can't invite too many people over. So you got to, keep it small. But yeah, for sure. Especially with Julian, his daycare being open, still gets to see kids outside of school. He's got like two really, really good buddies that
Good.
we have to like have over, or he will throw a fit. Uh, or we have to go to their house. Like we went to both of their houses for Halloween, and it was blast. That was like our thing that we did. We just went to see a couple families. Um, yeah, capped off the night at one of them, and yeah, I mean it's tough, man, because we don't have family out here. So I got no relatives out here, just some distant cousins. Um, yeah, so it's still a struggle before COVID and during COVID, but we're figuring it out each day, every week, every month. We'll figure it out, you know, moving forward into 2021. Hopefully 2021 is a lot more normal than 2020.
2020, there are so many memes that apply to 2020. I'm hoping that 2021 shapes up to be a heck of a lot better than this year.
Yep. You got anything you want to add? We're like right about the hour mark now. And I know I spent a huge chunk of it interviewing you, but too bad.
That's fine, man.
It just kind of worked out that way.
It did. I'm really looking forward to doing this with you. I'm really excited at the chance to sort of reconnect, bring some of our old friends in, and I'm curious of what you sort of envision this dream to be.
Yeah. So basically, the next episode, which we don't know when it will be or who we will be with, but the plan is for the next episode, it will be Mike and I and someone else that we cross paths with, either both of us or one of us separately. I'm feeling like we're going to get someone that both of us worked with for the
Yeah.
next episode. I think that would be cool, but we'll figure it out. This was a blast. I mean, this is exactly what we were thinking of doing, just hanging out, talking about our experiences. And moving forward, we want to share other people's experiences and our personal connection to them and some fun stories throughout the years. So that's what we'll do for the next one.
I like that, man. Catching up, talking with people, sharing war stories, and just being able to reconnect. I love being able to do that. We don't talk to those people from our pasts enough, and you know, I hope this encourages us to be able to reconnect.
And through the power of Zoom, we're doing it with whoever has Wi-Fi or internet. Mike's in Tucson, Arizona. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Who knows where the next guest is going to be, but it's coming soon. Sports Amigo #1 is done. That was a blast, dude.
I love it. This was great. I'm looking forward to who knows how many more.